Hello and welcome to the Operation Breakout Attacking Guide, finally back to tackle the last map, until we get a DLC war map that is. I did make a little video on Breakout way back in the beta, but I think I can do a much better job covering it now with the full game, having all the basic trainings available and so on, and of course I now have much more experience with it as well. But because this map has been around for so long, I'm sure you've picked up many tricks on your own, and also because this is the third war map we're covering, I'll try to avoid too much repetition. I'm just going to highlight some cool things for each stage that you might not already be doing. As always, remember your KD is not tracked in war, it doesn't matter, so work together as a team to win. The objectives will give you the most XP anyway. Well, as attackers, we are in the American 9th Infantry Division. Our mission is to fight our way through the village 6 miles west of San Lo and destroy the battery of AA guns by the church. In this first stage, we have to secure the manor to use as a forward operating base. Let's go through a class recommendation, although you can do all sorts of things, of course. As always, these are only some ideas you might want to incorporate. I would go with the fairly standard airborne hunker combination. It's a good combo in war because you have the speed to get to the objective with the staying power of armored living those grenades, and the defenders have no flamethrower for this part, so hunker is perfectly fine over the armor division. An SMG is a good bet for primary, especially if you're taking either of the flank routes on the left and right, but a rifle would work too, and you might want one if you intend to take the middle route and challenge people using that wall in the middle for cover. That can be tough to deal with though, I recommend going around. And if you're watching this at some point after they finally buff the shotguns, I hope, then they wouldn't be too bad of an option fighting people off inside the manor. Finally, I'd just take a lethal here. It's a safe bet to toss a frag or a satchel charge inside that main room to help you clear it out. Smokes aren't really needed. I guess you could smoke off this alleyway if there's an annoying sniper down there, but if you keep running into that, maybe just use the other side of the map. If you wanted to replace hunker with something, you could go with concussed maybe to really spam grenades in there, or some other training if you're going to play more of a support role on the windows protecting your teammates in the manor. I'll show that off more in a bit. So getting into the map, I mentioned those two flank routes around the left and right side. I'm pretty much always using those. Going through the middle leaves you pretty exposed unless your team has complete map control. Around the right side, that truck will help you get up behind that wall in the middle so you can clear out anybody using it, and then you can hop into the window or break down that wall to get inside. This wall is very easy to shoot through though, so watch out. You can also use the double satchel charge or double launcher method to get in if you have them, and of course shooting the charge after you plant it on the wall will make it blow up right away in case you're new around here. Once you're in that room on the side, you can shoot anybody on the windows or on that mounted gun, and then you can just hang out in that room forcing them to come to you. Over on the left flank route, you're very protected from the middle of course, but you should be ready to deal with somebody camping the entrance in that building. What the left side is really good for is coming up to this window and using it to keep that main room clear. If your team is already playing the objective, getting in that building to capture it, maybe from the right side, it is very valuable to have somebody stationed here on the other side of these windows. You have great cover to stop the enemies coming in from their window and doorway. You may already be using that spot, but I had to mention it. I think that has to be the best spot to use on attack for this objective. I learned about it as a defender going up against people in this spot. It can be quite annoying to deal with without a very accurate weapon. You usually have to flank all the way around to get somebody off that spot. So even though you're not contributing to the capture, as long as your team is hiding away in that far room capturing it, using this window to keep the room clear is very good. Well, as I said, just want to focus on the highlights. I think I have more interesting things to say about the other objectives, and this map has 4 stages, not 3 like the other maps. So let's get moving to building the bridge. For a class, airborne hunker will work fine once again. For primary, well, if you're going to be diving at the bridge, you won't be using it a whole lot, so pick something with 100% movement speed. I'm not a huge Type 100 fan, but it's good for the situation. With it being so accurate, you might be able to pick off one guy in a window before you start building. Although a shotgun actually isn't a bad idea either, because sometimes when you get to 50% built, defenders can easily push up to those barrels on the bridge, and that can be very annoying. You definitely want to deal with those people. Don't just ignore them and keep throwing yourself at the bridge, because you get shut down very quickly. A shotgun is actually quite effective at dealing with those guys before you start building. Or, of course, if you're a master of the serrated class, you can clear out the bridge with throwing knives only. Alright, maybe not the most viable strategy. To finish off the class, I don't think I need to tell you that you'll want a smoke grenade to help build. Throw it down on that girder to give you some cover from all angles, or if people on your team are already great at tossing down smokes on the bridge, you could consider throwing one further down the road to really block off any snipers in the back there. That'll make it impossible for them to even line up a guest shot, but generally, unless you have a really great team, you'll just be throwing it down directly on the building location to cover you from the windows as well. Other than that, there aren't any secrets to building the bridge. You can wiggle and spin around doing 360s while you build, but just so you know, that is not making you harder to hit, nor is it drawing attention to yourself. To everyone else, you actually look like you're building it normally. Just thought I'd let you know that is something I tried. I do want to mention for this stage, though, having some sniper support on your team is not a bad thing. Having too many snipers is obviously a problem, and that's what people usually complain about because it's way more common than having too many builders, even though building gives you more XP than trying to snipe, but I guess it's ingrained in CoD players to kill and not die. But anyway, too many builders can be a problem too. If nobody is shooting back at the defenders, if all 6 people are rushing the bridge and the defenders don't have to worry about taking cover at all, you'll have a pretty tough time building the bridge. Good enemy snipers will shut you down before you even get on there. With smoke and everybody building, you probably will get it done, but having some sniper support really does help. I thought I recorded a perfect example of that where the kill feed was just pure red. We were going to lose. I kept getting shut down at the bridge, so I swapped to a sniper and killed a few of the most problematic defenders, and suddenly, like magic, we were making progress on the bridge again. It worked perfectly, but apparently I didn't save that game. Very sad. Anyway, if you do swap off to a sniper class, you'll probably want Lookout to spot everyone, borderline OP in this section, and you should still run a smoke to help with the building effort, even if you're not the one diving on there. What other equipment would you want for this stage? Anyway, I will end with a nice line of sight. There's a tiny gap in the barrels here that gives you some good cover for checking the left side window, as well as it allows you to deny a couple of those popular head glitching spots in the back, on the barrel and on the truck. Most of the other spots around here are pretty obvious, I think, but I haven't seen this mentioned before. I guess you can also drop down onto the barrels if you want, which can be fun. Anyway, with the bridge built, onward to the ammo depot, and of course the proper way to travel is letting the tank push you there. Always be on the lookout for pesky snipers who decided to stick around. That's especially common for this stage because it's a pretty long run to retreat. Let's talk classes, and well, this is getting pretty repetitive. Airborne Hunker is a pretty good choice, although Armored Energetic, or Armored and some other training you like, is not a bad idea at all. In fact, I think I actually favor it, because the defenders got a flamethrower dropped at this stage, and one was also dropped at the bridge, which often gets saved for this part or for the tank at the end, so you are likely to get burned at some point here, and Armored allows you to survive getting hit by that, or at least it can allow you to live long enough to maybe kill the guy for your team. In addition to the other shell shock and tactical resistance benefits of Armored, any SMG or rifle is good to fight effectively in that medium range ammo depot area. Smokes can be good for covering a bomb plant, while lethals can be good for clearing out the site and protecting a planted bomb. They're both good choices. I do want to mention Expeditionary here, because it basically never gets recommended, but I can't help but feel like if there was an MLG war circuit, Expeditionary might see some play. The throw distance you get is pretty crazy. Like here when I died protecting the bomb, I was able to respawn and almost right away be helping to prevent that defuse by how far these things get thrown. That's a pretty powerful ability when used correctly, so I just felt like mentioning that. If you want to be leveling up Expeditionary anyway, maybe give it a go. Now for some cool spots to use, I love hopping up on the windshield of this car. It seems like this spot is still relatively unknown, but it allows you to see into the site over the walls and kill anybody defending back there. When you initially get here from the bridge section, there are often people still building up the side walls, and they think that because the front walls are built, they're completely safe, nobody can see them, but surprise, you can take them out from here, and that's pretty fun. It's helpful to clear out in advance while your team breaks down those front walls. Once you get the bomb down, if you can build up the 2 walls on their side, that gives you incredible control of the site, but a good enemy team probably won't let you do that. I highly recommend using this box as cover. It doesn't look like much, but I know from facing it as a defender and how well it seems to work as an attacker, this is an excellent spot for denying people coming in those 2 back entrances, and of course it works even better if the side walls behind you still happen to be built up, so give that a try for defending the bomb. I'll also mention the tank MG as being decent sometimes. It does allow you to see over the side wall and you can shoot people coming in that far back corner entrance, but you have to be ready to hop out because you're pretty vulnerable to the left side. In general, don't feel confined to being inside that ammo depot. You can absolutely roam around and try to shut them down before they even get into the site, so hopefully a couple of those spots work well for you. On to the last objective, being the tank escort. As for building a class, well, Airborne Hunker, why not? Sounds pretty good. Although once again, I will give Expeditionary a little highlight. Just the ease of throwing grenades and frags where you want them to go from anywhere on the map. It can be very nice. SMGs are alright, but towards the end section especially, I find myself wanting a rifle. There are some longer range gunfights it helps to win. Smoke grenades can help at the end to block off the back area, but lethals can do work too. They're both good options, and we'll see more of that later. So this whole first section of the escort is nothing too tough. Just watch that left flank mainly. If you got this far into the map, moving the tank forward forward shouldn't be a challenge here. Try not to get tagged by the red zone like I did there. I hate how long it outlines you through the walls. I think the duration of the being tagged should equal the duration that you were inside the red zone. But anyway, you should hopefully win some gunfights and make your way to this final section by the church without too much trouble. If you get there quick and the enemy team ignored it, you could even grab yourself a flamethrower. Now as the tank passes this wall, the struggle will begin because their spawn is right back there and yours is a light jog away. Starting off with a little line of sight, if you're struggling with somebody head glitching in the trench or they're using that mounted gun, with a long range weapon you can take them out from over the boxes back here. You can also jump by this wall to get a view of the area to see where people are. But moving forward here, there are two main roles you can fill to hopefully make this tank escort happen. I never spend much time focusing on people in the far back of the map there, just throw nades at them or maybe smoke off that entire back area. It's not worth dealing with them because the snipers in the back typically stay in the back. They're not going to be a huge problem for the escorters who can take cover behind the tank. After taking care of anybody just on the other side of the wall, because that's a pretty common spot, what you really need to do first of all is take control of the trench area. You can get there by running around the wall or by hopping over it in that broken section. That's much easier to do if the back area is smoked off. You need to own that side of the map or you will get nowhere. If they have a guy in the trench, making progress is very difficult. That is usually my goal as a solo player, just own the trench and sometimes even push out into the red to take people out and back, like maybe if the tank is nearly there, because getting tagged by the red is very bad otherwise. But if I make it to the trench and I can hold on to it, if the rest of my team is the least bit interested in winning and they're rushing to the tank, it seems like a lot of the time things just fall into place. They're able to push in, they can handle the church side, and we get the escort completed. Holding the trench is not a guaranteed magical win, but it seems to work very well for me, so that's something I recommend you try to do as a solo player. Definitely don't just dive at the tank again and again expecting a different result. The other thing you can do though is watch the other side, being the church side. Even if you stop escorting the tank and just stand in the doorway, it's a great help to your team if you can just stop anybody from dropping into the church and using that to flank people pushing the tank. If you can just focus on that and shut that down completely, that can often result in a victory. It's a very intense choke point in that last 5% when a defender can easily just dive in front of it and make it contested again, and it's tough for you to push around to get them, of course. That's where stickies and satchel charges come in handy, maybe even a Panzerschreck, and definitely a flamethrower if you manage to steal one of those. But that section is definitely a tough one. Solo strategy alone will not win you the game. Your team does need to overpower the enemy team to a certain extent to get over the disadvantage of the further spawn point, but it absolutely is doable. Try to get in that trench or watch the church to gain better control of the area. You won't get anywhere if you're getting shot from both sides. That's the best advice I could think to give, aside from, of course, jumping onto the tank, the best strategy of all. Well, maybe not, but you can do it, just so you know. Well, that about wraps up the attacking round of Operation Breakout. It does feel like I went through it pretty fast, but as I was saying before, we've all been playing on this map for a while now. There aren't many secrets left to cover, but hopefully you got something out of this, maybe a cool spot you can try out. I'll get to work on that defending half, so then we can be done with War Mode guides for now, and I can move on to a few other things I want to make. Well, that's all. Thanks for watching. I'll catch you next time.